Welcome. This is Micah Fairchild, Editor-in-Chief of HRLab.com, and today our conversation turns to human capital management in the cloud. Once again, I'm joined by my colleague, Chuck Schaefer, the CEO of Vantiv Media and Cloud Application Aficionado. Welcome, Chuck. How are you?
I'm well, Micah. Thank you for having me back.
Of course. All right. Well, I say let's jump right in. Not too long ago, there was this hilarious parody that The Onion did where HP said their company was now on that cloud thing that everyone was talking about. Well, obviously, The Onion's piece was meant to be satire at HP's expense. You can't deny that cloud-based applications are probably the single most discussed topic in the HR software space, right?
Absolutely, and for good reasons, which include benefits such as accelerated deployment and time to value, improved application ease of use, more frequent innovation in software releases, more business agility, better focus on core competencies, on-demand scalability, lower acquisition cost, and oftentimes lower total cost of ownership. Not that long ago in a discussion I had with IDC's business applications leader Michael Fawcett, we talked about the fact that the rise of cloud apps has occurred almost in parallel with the rise in social. And Michael noted that in actuality, four major technology shifts, being mobile, social, cloud, and big data, have all converged. Where these areas used to be siloed, they're now becoming interrelated, effectively building upon each other to achieve a synergistic growth and opportunity.
And talk about growth. Wasn't it IDC that forecasted that half of all transactions will be executed in the cloud by the end of 2014?
It was, and they also predict that by 2015, in the U.S. alone, $36 billion will be spent on cloud-delivered IT services. But
Wow.
IDC was also fairly quick to point out that certain areas, what they often call systems of transactions, like ERP systems, accounting apps, and oftentimes payroll, may not head in that direction if a business's needs don't change and necessitate new technology. A fact that could well mean that a sizable portion of HCM or at least payroll technology remains on-premise for at least the near term. Of course, some of that or some of those areas are ripe for outsourcing, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, unfortunately, our outsourcing discussion is going to have to wait for another time. But you bring up an interesting point there about the continued viability of on-premise applications. I think that's probably the crux of the cloud HCM issue. Which deployment option is better for an organization's specific functional HR needs?
Well, as with most technology initiatives, the right answer depends on the business objectives, functional requirements, and financial or other constraints of the organization. Even after a holistic look that considers strategy, people, process, and technology, when drilling down on the technology component, it's important to recognize that the touted benefits that cloud HR applications can bring have to be weighed against what an organization truly needs from their HR software and also considered within the context of potential concerns such as system integration, software customization, and information security once sensitive and personally identifiable information is stored in the cloud.
Yeah, security issues in particular seem to be one of the main areas where that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or FUD, are at play. No one wants a security breach when it comes to that employee data. But I think far too many businesses have used that argument to delay strategically positioning some of their HR applications in the cloud. I think they've convinced themselves that on-premise deployments are inherently safer. And I guess while I certainly can't control that sentiment, there's three particular questions that I think are important that organizations ask when they're considering that cloud security argument. One, do you know what your current risk exposure is? Countless studies have shown that the greatest vulnerabilities to IT security come from internal staff, not random hackers. So what kind of preparedness does your company actually have in that regard? Second, how are updates and patches currently delivered to your on-premise HR applications? The chances are they're downloaded from the internet, which means that your exposure is exactly the same as with a cloud HCM provider. It's just one of those vendors specializes in the web. And last, are you aware of the standard security practices that cloud HCM providers ascribe to? I mean, these companies have infrastructures that include expert staff, comprehensive plans, vulnerability audits, disaster recovery plans. not to mention security certifications like ISO 27001 and physical security measures that rival top-level government facilities.
Those are good points for sure. And I do think it's rather ironic that security is generally the first and most frequently cited cloud concern, especially considering that cloud solutions can dramatically improve security preparedness, incident response, and business continuity for most organizations. Unfortunately, for prospective buyers, this kind of misinformation, or at least misguided perception, is quite common. Whether you're talking about security or cost or innovation speed, there are advocates for each side, and they're all jockeying for company budgets and dollars. And more often than not, you've got vendors, paid-for analysts, and pundits making these blanket statements about the cloud where obviously their vested interests are at play.
Yeah, I guess then it's no wonder that cloud HCM in general has caused so many businesses so much confusion. So I guess to that end, let's say you were going to set out to clear up some of those misconceptions. What do you think the three main things are that business leaders at least should know?
Only three, huh?
Okay. Yeah, only three.
Well, first off, I'd have to say that the single most important task for organizations is to educate themselves. And I think there's three key areas where that needs to begin. First, businesses need to understand how cloud HCM applications will affect their total cost of ownership. Because organizational requirements are unique to the companies they come from, there are no hard and fast rules when it comes to total cost of ownership. The cloud may be a better choice because it allows for a change from capital expenditures to operating expenses, but not necessarily. Not only that, but the subscription pricing model that cloud solutions operate under, while costing less initially, may over the life of the application be more than a licensed solution. It's up to each organization to do those calculations.
Sure.
Second, gain some technical understanding about database tenancy. Much like total cost of ownership, the benefits of multi-tenant HCM applications may not apply equally to all organizations. For example, if your requirements include a great deal of customization, then a standalone nature of single-tenant SaaS HCM solutions may provide you more flexibility, but also recognize that platform-as-a-service toolkits are widely available now from multi-tenant software vendors, which allow for significant changes that were previously not possible. Also, the lines of tenancy are increasingly blurring, which has resulted in multiple types of architectures that could potentially meet an organization's needs. Like many deep-seated technology arguments, whether single-tenant versus multi-tenant, or Java versus .NET, or Oracle versus SQL Server, or countless other comparative alternatives, there is no one best answer for all. And finally, business leaders need to educate themselves about service level agreements, or SLAs. A lot is contained in these contracts, and standardization is not something that the industry as a whole has adopted. Application software buyers who don't understand the SLA being offered might inadvertently inherit risk. Some SLAs contain financially backed credits or penalties for SLA nonconformance, such as downtime, while others do not. Some SLAs exclude scheduled maintenance from uptime guarantees, while others do not. Some cloud providers calculate their uptime or downtime monthly, while others use annual periods. Most cloud vendors charge varying storage rates beyond their allotted per-user storage amount, and many vendors include automatic renewals. However, the terms and conditions of these renewals vary and may not match the initial contract. Because of these issues and many more, the onus is on the buyer to perform due diligence and understand exactly what they get and what they're getting into with a given cloud HCM application's SLA.
And since it looks like we're just about out of time, I'd say that's an excellent way for us to end our discussion today. As always, thanks for joining us for our conversation about HCM in the cloud. And I hope you'll join us next time as we continue to discuss the intersections of HCM strategy, process, and technology.